everyone. This is Akira from Yamato Manufacturing. Thank you for joining us for the second special noodle class online on our YouTube channel, Yamato Noodle. Okay, some of you who don't know much about us, like Yamato Manufacturing. Let me briefly explain our company first. So we are 45-year-old manufacturer of noodle making machines. We manufacture noodle making machines that are like designed to do Japanese noodles mainly, like ramen, udon, soba, but mainly used by restaurants and small production. And of course, like we've been running noodle schools for those of you who are kind of thinking of starting up a noodle restaurants, some business related to noodles. So we run this noodle school in Tokyo, Kagawa, and Singapore. And we actually restarted our noodle school from this situation with COVID-19, actually last week. Here in Kagawa. So for, if the travel ban is lifted, yeah, please, think about coming to our school in Japan as well, or Singapore. Okay, and then we have over, customers over 61 countries, and we are increasingly having more and more customers in different countries around the world. And we have distributors, and partners in different countries. Okay, so we help our customers to achieve their dreams becoming opening up noodle restaurants, and well, of course producing craft noodles and local restaurants, and then supermarkets and different businesses. So we have group of experts that are that have many years experience producing noodles, teaching students to become noodle masters, ramen shop owners. Okay, so let's get into today's subject. That's noodles suitable for takeouts and deliveries. So yeah, because of this situation with COVID-19, well, a lot of our customers noodle restaurants have been struggling with their businesses because of the restrictions from the government, and then basically the dining experiences that they provide are limited. So we have been kind of thinking about and then of how we can help, and then so we've been thinking about how we can create noodles that are good for takeouts, suitable for takeouts. And of course that there are challenges to providing a good take on noodles, because basically noodle soups and dishes are not really suitable for take on noodles. So there are the challenges, we basically have things there are 5 of them, and of course there's a difficulty with the customers preparing noodles, noodle dishes at home. Then basically in short it's very hard for the customers to kind of have the kind of same or similar experience in terms of quality wise in dining to the dining experience that they may have at restaurants. And soup noodle dishes are hard to make into take-on noodles, because customers carrying them back home, they because it's hot, or because of the soup, they may spill some on the way home, and then difficulty in retaining noodle texture after cooking. So you serve the noodles to the customer for takeout, but you cook the noodles and then you put it in a takeout product. But noodles lose the texture over time. So by the time they the customers get home or start eating them, noodle texture is gone. It's all soft and not really good texture. So And cost of takeout, containers and packages, and the availability of like adequate containers. And we basically have to like rely on the customers to be able to like prepare the takeout noodle dish, like you maybe like prepare like noodle takeout kit and stuff like that. So it's a bit hard for the customers who are not used to cooking to do a good job of like preparing them. So you have to like make it easy enough for the customers to do it. So how do we overcome these kind of challenges? And then for noodle, so what like we thought about like what makes noodles suitable for takeout, right? So we think like there are 3 points to making noodles suitable for takeouts. So first one is like texture holding property. So like as we talked about like noodles, if you cook them and then like provide them to the customers, and by the time like customers get home and like start eating, like they're all soft, the texture's gone. So we want to retain the noodle texture as much as possible, like after cooking. And second point is like noodles that go well with a small amount of soup. So we talked about like soup like being kind of problematic, like because like customers have to like carry it back home. That way on the way home, like they some of the soup like may spill and then like make a mess, right? So we need to think about like noodle dish that go well with a small amount of soup. Then because of the situations with like COVID-19, we've seen like more and more people are kind of having more time, like they have to stay home, so they have more time, and then like some of the people like who never cooked before are kind of like getting used to like cooking, like, and they're more willing to cook at home. So we could some of the customers may like maybe willing to like take home like uncooked noodles, and they like cook them at home. So in that case, like we could have like noodles that are like that could like cook in short time. So that's the third point. Okay, so let's start talking about like the first point, texture retaining property. So noodles retain texture for a while after cooking is very important. So like how do we do that? So we could do in different ways. We could do like you could actually increase the noodle size. We could change the ingredients. We could increase like this texture retain property by like doing like a bit of like a resting process, and like cooking time as well, changing cooking time. And what's good texture, right? So that's like chewy and hard but like elastic texture. And what makes noodle texture like last longer after cooking, right? And why noodles get soggy and soft after cooking? We need to understand this like to make the noodle texture last longer after cooking. Okay, and then there are 2 patterns of like noodle texture going bad, right? The first one is noodles getting soggy after a short period of time of cooking, and then starch in noodles actually go dry and then like hardens and comes like fragile after cooking. The second situation, like it's very hard for us like prevent it, but like first case, like we can actually do something about it. So how noodles get cooked and soft in hot soup, right? I think we showed this like slide like in last class, like we did like in last month, but like so this is like a cut surface with the noodles, like we dissect the noodles and then like we are looking at from the from the cut surface, and then so the noodles like so when the noodles get cooked, right, then the water, cooking water like are absorbed like from the side of the noodles like that are cut in the cut surface, and then that's how the noodles get cooked, like so first like fresh noodles and like noodles are getting cooked, and then like waters are absorbed like from the side, and but that's like when the noodles are get cooked, and then like noodles still have like some texture in them. So the center, the core part of the noodles are not yet cooked, but so that part has that, well, that bite to it. So like that's the kind of like texture that, like, we're talking about, good texture that we are talking about. And when all the like areas of the noodles are penetrated by the cooking water or like a soup, then that's when the noodles get soggy, like it's soft, like lost like all the texture. So we need to prevent like hot soup, like, or like the cooking water like from penetrating the noodle like as much as possible. Like, so we need to slow the speed of like penetration of the water. So okay, so this picture shows like kind of, it's a kind of extreme example of like how the noodles cut, right? So like on the right hand side, like that's we call them like reverse cut noodles. Like, so in the slide, the previous slide, like in the right hand side, reverse cut noodles. So that's like width is like smaller than the thickness. So the cut surface is like larger than the larger. So like these kind of noodles like absorb like more soup like faster. And then like on the left hand side, like that's kind of square. So like cut surface is like smaller. So that it absorbs like water like slower than the one on the right hand side. Okay. So first way like we could do like is that like we need to like it's a resting process. There are like 3 types of resting process, but this is the third one. And so like we need to like rest the noodles like after we made the noodles in refrigerator like for 1 or 2 nights, and this helps kind of lose the like air bubbles in the noodles. So like there are some like air bubbles like in the pockets like inside the noodles, and then like by resting them, we can get rid of these bubbles, so that like when the noodles are cooked, if the noodles have like air bubbles like pockets, then like noodles cooked, and then that's gonna burst, like these air bubbles are gonna burst, so that's gonna damage the gluten structure, and then that to make noodles like prone to like getting soft faster. So that's one of the like ways that you can do is like resting process. And so we are going over like this kind of chart a couple times this class, but like, so this shows different noodle types like by the hydration ratio, how much water is contained in the noodles, and then like how like a protein content of noodle, flour that's used to make these noodles, and then the size of the noodles. And so like we're gonna be going back to this chart later, but like basically like x-axis presents like a hydration ratio, and then y-axis presents like a protein content ratio of the flour that's used to make these noodles. Basically, the higher the protein, the harder the noodle texture, and lower the water content, the harder the noodle texture. And then the right-hand side, like that's the cutter sizes that are used to cut these noodles, like from like 1.0 millimeter to like 2.5 millimeters, like thinner to thicker. And so by changing the size, we can like help like retain the noodle texture. So like basically like bigger the size, the longer you can retain the noodle texture. So for basically like so like we are talking about like the big yellow circle, like dipping noodles, like tsukemen, that we are going to be talking about later. But like this is basically one of the ways we can make the noodles last longer in the hot soup. And the ingredients, also we can change the ingredients to make the noodles within their textures longer. One of them is like we use is like egg white powder. So egg white powder like works like plays a role like kind of like keeping the noodles like from like it works as like a sort of like a waterproof kind of effect. Like it's not exactly waterproof, but like it kind of like covers the noodles in a way that like it kind of prevents water, hot water, like hot soup, like from penetrating the noodles. So egg white we use, but like we shouldn't use like too much of egg white. We do like about like maybe like 1 to 2% to the weight of flour. Another one like we may use like it's a gluten powder. So that's an extract of gluten powder, gluten, and which makes the noodle like harder. And so like making noodles harder, that we can the noodles like keep the texture like a bit longer time. Another one we may consider using is the kansi, but like in terms of kansi, like we are doing like more of the potassium carbonate. Potassium carbonate, we talked about like in the last class, but like that increases the hardness of the noodle texture. So the one that we are using today is like it's actually 60%, 40%. 60% potassium carbonate, 40% sodium carbonate. Sodium carbonate works exactly the opposite way. It's like it makes it softer. So by increasing the blending ratio of the kansi, increasing the potassium carbonate, we can make the noodles harder, which means like we can make the noodles like last longer in hot soup. And water, we could change like hydration ratio to increase the retaining property as well. Okay. Another way you can make the noodle texture last longer is that so yes, so like when if you're like providing like takeout noodle dishes, and then like you need to like cook the noodles before you hand them over to customers. So we could do is that like we could like cook the noodles like shorter time, which means that like noodles are like harder. So which means that like like remember that picture like we showed you, like the core of the noodles like still like intact, like not like penetrated by water. So yes, well like so like if the noodles like need to be cooked like for like 2 minutes, we could stop cooking like maybe like 1.5 minutes or something. But what's important here like to remember is that like noodles have to be gelatinized. Gelatinization is like so like starch of noodles upon like heating. When like you heat it like in a liquid, so like then the starch noodle like a swell upon heating, and then becomes clear gel-like texture. So it needs to be happen like before we stop cooking noodles. Okay, so the second thing, like second point that we have like for these like noodles that are suitable for takeout is that like we need to think about like some noodles that are good with like small amount of soup. So it's like we talk about like, so it's difficult to for like customers like carry like soup noodles like this security home, right? So there are many types like noodle dishes that are actually like already available. Like like that are already served like a lot of different noodle restaurants. For example, like madamen, like a soba, which is like basically the kind of same kind of category of like madamen. Jajangmyeon, that's kind of like Korean style like sort of noodle dish. And tsukemen dipping noodles. The yakisoba this is like basically stir-fried noodles, and chuka, like that's like cold noodles. So what do they have in common, right? Well, rather common characteristics. So for example, like a noodle size tends to be bigger, like thickness and then width bigger, which leads to like higher hydration ratio. That's according to the chart like we showed you before. And then noodle texture is relatively softer but chewier. This is because of like higher hydration as well. Let me show you some pictures of these types of noodles. So like on the left, top left, like that's like jajangmyeon. That's with the like sort of kind of bean paste, like with like some ground meat, pastry sort of paste sauce on it. Like basically you just have to like mix it up like with the noodles and you eat it. And then the middle one, the on top and middle, like that's tsukemen, dipping noodle. The right top, like that's yakisoba, stuffed noodles. And then left bottom, that's here's chuka, like cold noodles. The middle, like that's soba. And then the right bottom, that's the madamen. And then we are going to be like putting together like some of these dishes like later in the kitchen. Show you. And so this picture actually only have like in on a website, our blog, that's little Master lab. But basically like so the ramen has been like kind of evolving. This shows like sort of evolution of ramen. And then so the standard ramen, like we were talking about, like noodle soup style. So yeah, you have like hot like cold noodle soup. Right, and then you have noodles in there, and then like soup is that consists of like soup stock, tare, and then like oil, and the amount of soup like high, like big, right? And then by like that soup density is like low to high, and tsukemen, so that tsukemen has been like around like for like almost like 30 years, 40 years, but this is like new genre of like ramen that's been very popular. So you have noodles. And noodles are like cooked and then like rinsed and then chilled in the cold water and then served like that, like in a bowl. And then like you have a small soup that's very very dense. And then like density of the soup is like very high. And then the third one like is like madamen. That's so basically you have the very small amount of soup, like or even sauce, like some oil, and then you just have to like mix it with the sauce, and then like eat it. So basically, like ramen's been like evolving, like then like kind of like losing soup over time. So we're kind of like as we advance, like we're like we're gonna be having like less and less soup. So we think that going back to the chart, right? So we think that like noodles suitable for like takeout and deliveries are like in those like kind of like somewhere like in between like kind of purple circle, that is the right bottom. So that the noodle size is like bigger, and then the amount of water is higher, and then the protein content of the flour that you're using to make these noodles like lower. So like basically softer but chewier, and then like bigger in noodle size. And another point I want to touch on is like short cooking time. So let me talk about like more people like willing to like do some cooking at home. So we need to like kind of take advantage of like this tendency like to let customers cook noodles at home. I think like we may have to like do some like education. And then I've seen like some of like our customers, different countries are doing like some like video, showing like how they cook noodles, like how they warm the like soup and then like put them together. And then that's like really good educational like material, and then that's something like you can do like pretty easily. Then like noodle size matters, especially like thickness or like area of like hot surface. So like we do have this little table like on our website as well. Like so, it's like the higher the hydration, the shorter the cooking time, but the larger the size, the longer the cooking time. I guess like this, the size like matters like more than the hydration ratios. Like if you have like high water content noodle, but like the larger, I mean, that's like large in size, like in thickness and width, the cooking time is like long. But my point is like you could have yes noodles that are like small in size, and then you can like let customers cook noodles at home. So basically, we're talking about like somewhere between like maybe like the red circle, like Yukasoba Tokyo style ramen, or like even like Hakata ramen. Like so, like cooking time maybe like for Tokyo ramen is like maybe like 1 minute, more a little bit more longer. So maybe like 70 seconds or so, and Hakata ramen is like maybe like 30 seconds. So like maybe like shorter the cooking time, like more willing the customers to the cooking. So for like those would be like who are interested in like serving like letting the customers cook at home. Like you may want to think about or serving them with like noodles that are small in size. Okay, so this is like what I have like for this like slide in this class, but like we are not perfect, of course. Like so, we're gonna be doing more on this kind of subject. I know later in the coming classes. So like for those of you like who are interested in this kind of subject, like please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, so let's start like making some noodles, and I'm gonna show you guys like some of the ingredients we have over here. So so for the noodles, like we're gonna be making this class, right? Like we're just gonna be using it's like wheat flour, but like this wheat flour has like protein content of like 11.5%, and this is just the water. This is a pure water. Then we have like salt, and then we have currency. And then as I said, like this has like 60% potassium carbonate, 40% sodium carbonate. And we have over here like we talked about like egg white. It's in the powder form, but like you can use like fresh eggs as well. And the gluten. So like this is gluten, like so that like this gluten powder, like just by adding it, like just makes the noodles like harder. So these two you may want to use like to make the noodles like retain the texture like longer. Other ingredients like we might use are like whole eggs, right? Or in powder form, and it's like coloring agent. So like if you are like want to make like noodles that are like really yellow, like bright yellow, you might use some of these. And then we might use like green. Want to have like green colors, like the spinach powder, like seaweed powder, things like that. And then it's like whole wheat. So we're gonna be like mixing it like in the flour to have like sort of is whole wheat like more nutrient than like a regular flour. So I want to have some of these. Okay, so let's start making some noodles. And then the machine that we're gonna be using today is that like we're calling it Richmond Gold. It's one of our like newest machines, and this machine has 10 kilograms mixer. So, but like the medium batch is like 4 kilograms, and you can mix it up to like 10 kilograms of flour at a time. All right, so let's start making some noodles. All right, so first we are going to be putting just the flour, well, meaning like solid ingredients. And then we weighed it like to like 4 kilograms. And then type of the noodles like we're making today is like are like, you know, of course, like type of noodle like we can use for takeout and deliveries. So first, like we put flour in there, like in the mixer, and we're gonna start the mixer just with the flour. We won't like run it for like 1 minute, maybe like we call it like air mixing, because we want to make sure that like all the flours like are like powdery, like if there are some chunks, like we want to break them into small pieces, and we want to like get some air actually into the flour particles in this process. And because the lid has some holes in them. So when we, okay, so first, like we need to like dissolve like all these salt and condensate in water first. And because we are dissolving these ingredients into the water, you know, we call these 3 ingredients liquid ingredients. And we need to like count them as percentage of the liquid. So that was 1% to the weight of the flour, 1% of the weight of flour each. So that adds like 2% to the liquid percentage. Okay, so yeah, so the mixer lid has like some holes in them. So the water, like liquid, are like added to the flour little by little through the holes. We don't want to add like water like all at once, because that's gonna just like make the flour wet. And because like in the mixing process, like what we want to do is like good hydration of the flour. So we want to distribute the liquid equally like throughout the flour particles. That's why like we need to add like water little by little. And mixing speed is also important. So our like mixer has mixing speed of like 60 rotations per minute. Yeah, so like this machine is like is more advanced with all these touch panels, control, and then so you're controlling all the speed and like so roller gap, things like that, like on the touch panel. Okay, so we can't wait forever for the mixer to be finished. But like basically, like we are mixing it for 10 minutes in total. But like we should start next process. So we have some dough that's been mixed previously. This is actually 2 kilograms dough, and we're gonna be feeding it to the rollers. We call this process like rough sheeting. So we're going to be making rough sheet of dough first through the rollers. And then with this handle, she's actually changing the roller gap to 1.5 millimeter and setting the roller speed to slow speed first. And here comes the sheet of dough. And this machine what's amazing about this machine is that it has a automatic feeding function, and then so the dough is like fed to the rollers like little by little, like ideal like amount of dough at a time. And then it has safety sensors, which when you touch the sensor, the machine stops. So this dough was about like 38% hydration ratio. Like 2% of it was currency and salt. So the actual amount of water is just 36%. Okay, so after we make this like wrap sheet of dough, um, we're gonna be doing like this process called like combining process. You're like after we made the wrap sheet of dough, that dough itself like it's still like fragile. So we need to like make it firm, make like um, stronger. So how we do that is like we gonna separate this dough to like two sheets, two separate sheets, and then we're gonna be combining them. We're gonna be combining like through the rollers. So that was 1.5 millimeter roller gap like that. This dough is like going through. So it's supposed to be like each dough sheet is 1.5 millimeter like in thickness. But we are combining them together. So it's supposed to be like 1.5 plus 1.5. That's like 3 millimeters. So like 3 millimeter equivalent of dough is like going through the roller right now. And then we want to apply like good amount of pressure, and so we have this like rule, like 70% rule. So at every rolling round, like we apply the 70% rule. Like so, like that's 3 millimeter dough going in. So we uh, multiply 3 by zero point 0.7, like 2.1 millimeter. So we set the roller gap to like around like 2.0, like just rounded down to the sake of like simplicity. So after combining, the dough is like it's it's very smoother than the before. So through this process, like we are sort of um, developing the gluten structure inside dough. And this process, like we want to go slower. So we set the roller speed to slow speed. So after that, we like to make sure that the good gluten structure is like developed. So we are going to do the combining process like for the second time. So again, like that was like 2 millimeter roller gap like that. noodle dough like it's gone through previously. So like each noodle, each dough sheet like supposed to be like 2 millimeter, right? And so 2 plus 2, 4, then 4 times 70%, 0.7 like 2.8. But we're gonna be rounding up this time to make it simple to 3 millimeter. And then we are turning on this duster to dust on the dough to prevent it from sticking. So after second combining process, like this dough is definitely more chewier and then harder, and then structurally like it's stronger than before. Okay, so after second combining process, this dough is ready in terms of like the gluten structure. So all we do is just thin it, right? Remember 70% rule. So like that was like 3 millimeter. So multiplied by like 0.7, that's 2.1. Like to make it simple, round it down to 2.0. And from this point on, we can speed up the rolling. So we just apply this 70% rule to like make sure, ensure that like this gluten structure that's been developed inside the dough to like kept intact. Okay, so after it's gone for like 2.0 millimeter roller gap, like we need to, we are like measuring the actual thickness, and that's like 2.5-ish. And so there's like, so actual dough thickness is always bigger than the roller gap we set. It's like it bounces back like after like it's gone through a roller gap. So okay, so that's the difference, like 0.5 millimeter. So the dough bounces back by 0.5 millimeter, and we are cutting it. We're cutting it now. Okay, and we're using the cutter. That's 14. Number 14 is about it's about like it's like 2.0 millimeter in width. Okay, let's start cutting it. And then when you cut it, like you can adjust the length of the noodles, and the length of noodle basically determines the serving size of the noodles. And basically, the takeout noodles, like for example, like tsukemen, like and madamen, because the amount of soup is like tends to be like smaller, less. So tendency is that like the noodle serving size is big. So for example, like tsukemen noodles have like serving size of like typically like 160 grams to like maybe like 200 grams, depending on like what you're eating. Basically, this is because like the noodle shops are like compensating the small amount of soup with the bigger size, like serving size of noodles. But the cost of like making noodles is definitely less than the making production of soup. So we just cut like these noodles like using a number 14 cutter. Like we want to make some noodles that are like curly. It's a bit like smaller cutter size, number 16, but like it has like some attachment parts in the back of it to make the noodles curly. So noodles are coming now. And you can actually adjust like the curliness of the noodles by adjusting the attachment parts back of the cutter. You can make them like curlier, like or less curly. So how the noodles will get curled is that like the cutter has like some like attachment parts back of the cutter, and yeah, let me show you. So it has some attachment parts like that's like the silicone plates, and then so the noodles are stuck in there first, and then they get pushed out, and then in the process like they get curled. Okay, so we can use this type of like noodles like for madamen and even like for tsukemen as well, and then you can change the size. You can change the size of noodles using different cutters, different cutter sizes. 18, like 14 that we just use, like 12, like that's typically used for like tsukemen, dipping noodles, even for like some noodles like udon noodles. Number 20, so like we talked about, like you know, you're gonna let like customers like cook noodles at home. Like for that type of noodle, like we could use like a number 20. Maybe like cooking time would be like maybe 1 minute and a little bit, and even like you can use like number 26. That's like 1.3 millimeter width. Like so, this noodle will be like maybe cooked in like 30 seconds, even like 20 seconds. And so we made some noodles, and so these are like high water content noodles, like with the like whole wheat needed in them. And so this is something, this type of noodle like we could use for like stir fried noodles like yakisoba, and then these noodles like have some like seaweed powder needed in them. Talking about seaweed powder, like so like people are more like, I think more and more people like getting health conscious because of virus, and then like seaweed is like one of the ingredients like we could use like to like boost the immune system. So it's something like you may want to like consider using like for takeout noodles. And then this is another one like has like this lemon, actually lemon powder. Lemon powder has like also like kind of skin in them. So it has like some of the bitter taste in them, but like it's a something you might want to consider like using for the takeout noodle dishes. Okay, so we want to start moving to the kitchen, and then we're gonna be we have like some instructors like standing by the kitchen like to show you guys like how the noodles are cooked, and then like to put the how to like put the stuff together. Like we have a kitchen, and some of our staff are like actually working different things. So let me introduce you guys our instructors. First, like Mr. Ikeda, like our chief instructor. His background is like in Chinese cuisine, so like he has a lot of knowledge. Like that's kind of like similar to ramen. So he's teaching. He's been teaching like for a couple of years, like udon courses, like ramen courses, like so he knows a lot about cooking, and the cuisines, and the techniques as well. So please feel free to ask him any questions you may have. And Miss San, so he's actually he speaks Chinese. Then he joined us like recently, but like he's very well trained as an instructor. So if you have like some questions in Chinese, like feel free to ask him any questions. And then we have Mr. Takeuchi. We call him Thomas. He's actually from Canada. So and then like his nationality is like also like American as well. It's like so he speaks like native English. So if you have any questions about like cooking, like in our school or anything, please feel free to ask him any questions. And then let me show you guys like some of our kitchen. So normally like we have like 8 people maximum at the one class. And over there like we have some induction cookers. Like we have like 10 of them. Like they are very powerful. So each induction cooker cooks like different ingredients at a time. Like so separately, like individually, like in each pot, right? So so that like students when you come there, like and they like learn, so they know how like each ingredients tastes, right? So that after that, like they can like combine them together. So like it's like a lab, like where they can experiment like with the like different ingredients in different soup broth. Also, we make like tare, like and then like flavor all like from scratch. So we make like 30 or like 50 different kinds for students to like experiment with them. So this is like basically a lab where we provide like students with anything, any kind of like, so like each student has like his own idea of like what they want to do, like what kind of ramen they want to do, right? So we provide them with the like environment, like ingredients, and then so they have like a place, the resources to like make anything that they want to from scratch. And then at the end of the day, like they go home like with like sets of like recipes that they complete like during class. And then because we have like 8 people at a time, like they can work with like different other students who have like different ideas, right? So they can like share some ideas with together, right? It's very good. Like you not only like have like your own recipes, but like you can go home with like recipes like that are like maybe like you share like with other students as well. Okay, so I'm gonna hand it to Mr. Takeuchi Thomas to explain how the noodles are cooked and then like how to put together like takeout dishes.
Once again, this is Thomas, one of the instructors at the Yamato Noodle School. And today I will show you how to prepare your takeout dish. And for the example, we're going to be using madamen and yakisoba. Okay. So let's just head to the boiling machine. So when you're preparing your takeout menu, you have to prevent 2 problems. One problem is you have to prevent the noodles from getting soggy. Okay? And second problem is you have to prevent the noodles from sticking to each other and becoming a one whole clump. So to prevent those 2 problems, there's 3 tips for you. One, after you boil the noodles, you have to wash and chill the noodles. And you want to wash the noodles because after you boil the noodles, there's going to be starch around the noodles, and that's going to cause the stickiness of the noodles. And also, you want to chill the noodles because at warm temperature, the noodles are going to soak up the liquid more. So if you chill it down, it's going to get soggy slower. And tip 2, after you boil the noodles and wash and chill, you want to coat the noodles with oil. And by coating the noodles with oil, it's going to keep the noodles separate, and also it's going to block the liquid from soaking into the noodles. And tip 3, you want to keep the sauce and any kind of liquid, soup, sauce, separate from the noodles. So in this case, we have the sauce in this mini bottle, and the noodles and topping is going to be in this container. So you have to keep it separate. So you're just removing all the liquid from the equation, and so that noodles are going to get soggy slower. Okay? So please remember those 3 tips, and I'm going to finish off making of the madamen now. And madamen is, the direct translation is mixed noodles. So, and it's soupless. So all you have is a sauce and flavored oil, and you mix it up with the noodles and you eat it. Okay. Great. So now I'm going to start making the madamen for takeout. And to boil the noodles, make sure to have rapidly boiling water. And don't just dump it in. Just break it apart as you put it into the boiling machine. And this noodle is going to be around 3 minutes boiling time. And for the first 5 or 10 seconds, you want to move it around. Because usually at the beginning, noodle is going to be like sinking down the bottom. So you want to move it around. And you need rapidly boiling water because you want the noodles to be swimming freely in the basket. Because if it's in one clump, outside is going to be overcooked, inside is going to be undercooked. So what you want to do is see, as you can see, the noodles starting to move around freely. That's important for boiling the perfect ramen noodles. Okay. So as the noodles are boiling, let me explain about the sauce. This sauce is for madamen. And this recipe is taught at our ramen school. So if you're interested, please consider our ramen school. And because this is for takeout, it's going to be in this small bottle. And for the flavored oil, this is the flavored oil. This is also taught at our ramen school. It's flavored with leek and garlic and sesame oil. And because this is takeout, we're going to be using this oil to coat the noodles. And let me talk about the toppings. In general, when you talk about madamen in Japan, the typical toppings will be leek, chives, minced pork, and seaweed, eggs, and fish powder. But today I'm going to change it up a little, and we're going to have the original stuff, ground pork, fish powder, eggs, seaweed, and we're going to change it up here. We have, for the green, we have avocados. For the red, we got tomatoes, and for the white, we got the onions, chopped up onion. Okay. Let's get back here to the boiling machine. 30 more seconds. Like I said, for when you're preparing your takeout dish, you want to wash and chill the noodles before you plate it in the container. So the noodles boiled, remove the hot water out, and into the strainer bowl. And what you want to do here is you want to like wash the noodles gently so you can remove all the starch on the outside of the noodles. So just like this. So by removing all the starch, it's going to prevent the noodles from sticking back together. And make sure to remove all the water out. That's going to dilute the sauce. And into this bowl with the flavored oil. Now what you want to do is coat every single noodle strand with oil. By having this oil, it's going to keep the noodles separate, and also it's going to slow down the noodles from soaking up liquid. So just like this. So now, going to put it in the container. 미디엄持ってきたんですか? Okay, sorry. So when you're topping these madamen, just divide this circle into 3. Actually, in this case, 4. So one part's going to be avocados, the green, and tomatoes, onion, and some seaweed. And this ground pork. This is flavored with ginger and garlic, and soy sauce, and some Chinese spicy miso. And this will be in the middle. This will be in the middle. And then what you want to do is you want to make a small hole in the middle because you're going to put the egg in the middle. Originally, we like to put raw egg yolk in the middle, but because this is for takeout, what we have here is soft-boiled eggs. And finish off with fish powder on the side. So madzemang for takeout is prepared like this. So just like this. And when you eat this, when the customer eats this, the customer will put this sauce when they're just about to eat it and mix it up because it's madzemang, it's mixed noodles, and then yeah, it's ready to eat. So because the sauce is separate, it's gonna keep the bite to the noodles. It's not gonna get soggy. So this is what we recommend to how to prepare the takeout dish. Okay. Just like this. And once again, for the toppings, it can be anything. What you'll probably need is a ground pork. Probably need the ground pork and egg. But other than that, you can just put anything. So there's no rules for the toppings. So just play it around with that. Okay. So that's madzemang. So we move on to yakisoba. Okay, so next will be yakisoba, stir-fry noodles. So what we have here is minced garlic and ginger, and sliced pork belly. And for the veggies, we have bean sprouts, cabbage, and carrots. And for the seasoning, when we usually season the yakisoba, we use a yakisoba sauce. But I'm pretty sure some of you don't have the access to yakisoba sauce. So today I'll be showing you a simple recipe seasoning with the noodles with salt and pepper and sweet soy sauce. This soy sauce, I just mix the soy sauce and sugar together. Okay. So now that the ingredients are explained, and this is a topping. Once the yakisoba is done, we're gonna top it with some seaweed on top and ginger. Okay, so let's start cooking. We're gonna boil this noodle. Once again, this is gonna be 3 minutes. Okay, let's go. Let's get back to the stove. So I'm heating up the pan. First, vegetable oil. Then, garlic and ginger. And what you want to do is you want to slowly cook this garlic and ginger so you move all the flavor into the oil. And try not to burn them. So you're just going to cook it until it just has a slight color to it. So as you can see, there's like a slate color to it. So now I'm going to put the pork belly. And maybe cook it until the pork is like half cooked or 60% cooked. So just like this, half cooked is fine. And then next, the cabbage, bean sprouts, and carrots. Then salt and pepper. And so I'm gonna pour this sweet soy sauce, just half of it, because we're gonna be using the remaining for the noodles. Okay, once the noodles are, the vegetables are cooked, I'm just gonna move it to the side. So we're gonna be using this open space for the noodles later. So I'm just gonna move it to the side. I turned off the heat, and the noodles are boiled. So let's go back to the boiling machine. $14 リッターの寸胴の蓋、ちょっと出してもらっていいですか? Okay. Once again, this is for takeout. Actually, when you're making yakisoba, in general, you want to wash the noodles after you boil. You want to remove all the starch. So just like this. So I'm gonna reheat the pan. Boiled noodles. Salt and pepper. And the remaining sauce. And mix it up so that it's completely seasoned. Once the noodles are completely seasoned, you want to mix it up. Okay, just like this. So yakisoba is completely cooked. So I'm gonna start plating into a container. And lastly, some seaweed on top and ginger on the side. And one last tip for yakisoba, try not to put the lid on right away. Because it's hot, if you put the lid on, it's going to keep all the moisture inside, and it's going to make the noodles and everything, it's going to be too wet. So try to keep the lid open as long as possible and just close it right before serving to a customer. Okay, so let's move back. or I'll bring the mastering. So yeah, what we made today was a madamen, a slight change to it with avocados, tomatoes, and onion, and yakisoba with a simple seasoning with soy sauce and sweet soy sauce. Oh, so we got a question from Chen Wu. The oil for soba is animal fat or vegetable oil? I like to use animal fat. It makes it, I feel like it's going to taste better. But for takeout, it's going to get cold. And when you use animal fat, it's going to solidify. So I prefer using vegetable oil for madamen for takeout. So just like this. And so if I'm going to recap the points. For when you're preparing the takeout dish for noodles, you have to prevent, one, you have to prevent the noodles from getting soggy. Two, you have to prevent the noodles from sticking. So to prevent those two problems, 3 tips. 1, wash and chill the noodles. 2, coat the noodles with oil. And 3, keep the sauce separate from the noodles. So remember those 3 tips, and probably you're gonna end up with a better takeout menus. Okay, so that's about it from my side. So I'm gonna pass it back to Akira.
We're gonna be covering like a lot of like this kind of subject like in coming classes. You know, like because like you know we think that like takeouts, deliveries are going to be like a very important part of like you know noodle restaurants businesses. And yes, so like for example, like you know we may be like doing like you know like one class just on like yakisoba or like you know maybe like tsukemen because like they are really popular and then like maybe like you know there's like very good items for takeout and deliveries. So you know like if you guys like enjoy this class, like please hit the like button, and then like you know if you guys like interested like in more of this kind of subject like or like some other aspects like of noodles like noodle businesses, please like you know leave them in the comments, and then like send us some emails like asking questions. You know if you have like some other questions like you may like you know come up like later after this class, like you know just like send us like through emails or something. And so thank you guys for watching, and like you know, we hope like to be able to like see you guys in the next classes, and then like for you guys, you know, for some of you like who are interested in this kind of subject, like you know, like what we're doing, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's like Yamato Noodle. So thank you guys for watching today, and hope you guys to see you guys like in the next classes, and then like stay home and stay healthy, like. Guys, bye. Thank you.